Hey guys, welcome back to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Kai'Sa supplementary guide. Today we're going to be taking a look at AP Kai'Sa, but a little bit different than the AP Kai'Sa we've taken a look at previously. We're going to be taking a look at Manamune first item Kai'Sa. So if you take a look at currently the top builds, obviously on hit is the most popular, but of course if the situation calls for it, aka your team has no AP, you can of course build an AP focus build like this one. So now the traditional AP focus build goes for Terminus first item, right? As we all know, Terminus is one of Kai'Sa's best items. However, it is really expensive. So if you take a look at the situation here, Terminus is 3,400 gold. Manamune is 2,700 gold. So the difference between these two items is 700 gold. That's more than 2 kills worth of gold, right? So the whole logic of going for Manamune is it's a cheap item, you can get your Q evolved very quickly, and as a result, you can spike earlier on, right? Of course, in the long run, Terminus is probably going to be better, but with Manamune, you still get amazing stats, and you still, can get the Q evolved early on. So of course, that's the main reason for going Manamune. You get the Q evolve early, but aside from that, you also get ability haste, you get mana, and of course you also get the on-hit damage on your auto attacks as well as your abilities when you evolve Manamune, which is always going to be a good thing, right? Kai'Sa Q is a lot of her damage. Same goes with her W when you go AP as well. So all good. Right, so then you go for the same AP items you normally go for. You have boots, Gladness Greaves as a default. Of course, you can go for defensive boots as well here. Then you go into Nashor's Tooth, which of course gives you attack speed, ability haste, as well as on hit AP damage. At this point, it will give you AD though. However, when you complete Riftmaker, it does give you AP. And with Riftmaker, of course, you get the Omnivamp, you get the true damage, you get all the good stats. And then at this point, because it's a very auto attack focused build, I like to go into Runaan's Hurricane, right? Because this allows me to attack 3 people at the same time, allows me to stack up my passive. And with the AP build, your passive is going to do a ton of damage, and this is of course going to allow you to prop your passive onto more than one person at the same time. And then finally, as last item, Death Cap, of course, just for a huge boost of AP just to cap it off. Right, and for the rune setup, standard ADC, loadout, no surprises there. For the summoner spells, you normally want to go Flash Cleanse. If you don't need Cleanse, Exhaust or Barrier is normally the best way to go, because Kai'Sa is very good at 1v1, so you want to have those 1v1 summoner spells. Ghost is a little bit of a waste on Kai'Sa, I feel. But with all that said, now let's take a look at our gameplay. Okay, so looking at the gameplay, of course, as I said, first things first, when you want to go for an AP Kai'Sa build, generally you only go for AP Kai'Sa if you have no AP or low AP on your team. And so in this case, right, I have a Darius, Master Yi, and Yasuo. All of them do basically AD damage. Now, I guess Yasuo could go for something like a Charge Blade, which will give him a bit of AP damage, but in general, these are all AD champions. Now, Malphite, I have no clue what he's going to be building, but judging off of his rune, he has Grasp of the Undying. I'm thinking he's probably going tank, right? He's probably not going to be building full AP Malphite based on the fact he has that rune. By the way, guys, so here, I get hooked at level 1, max range, get chunked just a little bit, just take a little bit of damage, and then as it goes on, I'm walking, and I hook through the minions here. I get caught again, and I just straight up die level 1 to 2 hooks in a row from Pyke. Pretty embarrassing, but yeah, I'm not the best at dodging hooks, so yeah, that was not a good start at all. Malphite gets hooked as well. And yeah, just not a very good start to the game. Yasuo also dies to Ezreal mid. And yeah, so back to the point, right? You want to go mainly when there is little to no AP on the team. So I'm expecting there to be no AP on the team, which is why I'm going for this build. Sidestep on the E of the Pyke. We get off a little bit of damage because he has no spells now, so he's going to be taking a bit of damage here. I'm trying my best to prop the passive flash forward because we have Master Yi coming in. Now there, I don't know if you guys will believe me after I just got hooked a couple of times in a row, but I got hooked there on purpose to gap close onto the MF and the Pyke, right, who were both very, very low. Master Yi, however, gets way too overzealous and dives the tower when really I don't think we could kill them under tower, and he ends up dying for it instead. So this ends up giving MF and Pyke another kill. So now both of them are 1-0-1, which is definitely not a good sign. However, Pyke is just going to dash out of the way, back to safety, and yeah, Pyke is a really hard champion to kill in the early stages of the game. Mostly because he is very, very mobile and he has that great health, so he's a lot more tanky than what he looks. Another dodge on the Pyke E. Malphite just recalling in the bush there, no help whatsoever. And looks like Malphite is spending a little bit of time shopping. He's not really doing anything in base. He's not buying anything. There we go. He finally buys boots, and I'm not sure what he's doing in base, but finally we get out of base ourselves with the tier. Now, of course, getting tier early is going to help you stack up your Manamune faster. Now, the upside of Manamune is, of course, as I mentioned just now in the build, but if in case you guys missed it, is the fact that with Manamune, you are going to be able to get your Q evolve very, very quickly. It's 700 gold less than Terminus, so you can get Q evolve before the first objective, whether you get kills or not, right? All you got to do is to farm well. You should always be able to get Manamune before the first objective, no questions asked, right? Unless you get completely stomped and you die like 3 times in lane. Otherwise, you probably are going to be able to get Manamune before the first dragon almost all of the time. Right? However, one of the downsides of Manamune is that the build path is kind of horrible, right? You have Tier, you have Caulfield's Warhammer, 2 items that kind of suck. Tier gives you mana, which is essentially useless in the early game. It doesn't give you any AD, and Caulfield's Warhammer is one of the worst mid-tier items out of all the AD mid-tier items. Right, obviously you have Serrated Dirt, you have BF Sword, you have Recurve Bow, Noon Quiver. All of these are just better than Caulfield's Warhammer, so getting Caulfield's Warhammer is kind of trash. Right, so the build path is kind of horrible, but you get your Q evolve very, very quickly, and as a result, it's kind of, the build path is kind of forgivable, right? So here again, MF and Pyke is a very aggressive lane. Pyke just wants to look for those hooks. MF can easily kill people that Pyke hooks in, so we got to be very, very cautious. Malphite kind of useless before level 5, but he is finally level 5 though, so he does have that ulti up and available. So maybe he can do something with that. But here you can see, I already have my Manamune here. Get the Q evolve before 4 minutes into the game, and I died once, right? So you can see how it's basically a guarantee that you're gonna get Q evolve before Dragon fight. Whereas with Terminus, you can only get it before Dragon if you get like 1 or 2 kills in lane, right? You cannot get it simply by farming. But with Manamune, you can always get it by farming. So we do have that Q evolve now. We have that Spike. Pyke's probably in the bush there. There he is. And here Malphite finally helping out a little bit. Now MF is super overextended, gets ulted by Malphite. With the Q evolve, we do a lot more damage. We're gonna kill the Misfortune. Now here, trying to get the kill onto Pyke. Pyke is pretty low. 2 more autos probably gonna kill him. Mastery goes in. Pretty well played by the Pyke. And I'm taking another tower shot and I do end up dying. However, we did get 2 quick kills there, which is really, really good considering we're 0-1 and 0. Getting 2 kills there is pretty huge, putting us almost at even goal with the MF. Right, so in this game, I'm actually going to go for defensive boots as well, because you can see the enemy team is very, very heavy AD, right, and they have a lot of lethality. Right, you can see both Ezreal and Pyke have lethality. Boots MF is building lethality, she has a Dirk, and basically armor boots are a huge counter to lethality because lethality just cuts off the amount of armor you have. So if you don't have any armor items, they're going to take a lot more damage, and of course with the armor item of the plated steel caps, we're going to take quite a bit less damage, right? So definitely a very, very good game for defensive boots. Fiddle is doing the dragon. My mastery is only coming out of base, so there's really no point in contesting the dragon here. There's no way we're going to get anything done. So instead, we're just going to quickly go back to the wave with our Malphite. Malphite has the same idea. We're going to quickly push in the wave. Now, here is where our ideas differ. Malphite is trying to push the tower, but we cannot be pushing the tower when the enemy team is on dragon, because it's a simple matter of the enemy team either stopping the dragon and rotating, or like 1 or 2 people rotating, or they finish the dragon, rotate on top of us, and we will die for trying to take tower plates. So we cannot be doing that, right? I'm backing all the way away. Malphite can try to take tower plates himself if he really wants to, but I'm not risking my life for like 1 plate, right? That's not a good trade. I mean, if I could get like 3 plates, maybe that would be a good trade, right? Because 3 plates is like 450 gold, but even sharing with Malphite, that's not even 450 gold anymore. So here I am trying to force this 1 plate though. You can see that 150 gold there. I take almost no damage for it, so I think that was a pretty good force of a plate there. You have to kind of squeeze a little bit here and there, but not all the time. So here you see with the plated steel caps complete, you can see that the amount of damage I take from MF is so much less. Take note here that she has Duskblade, and that was a Q bounce off Malphite onto me, but I only really take a little bit of damage. This is one of those instances where going for armor boots is insane and it's game winning. Like armor boots itemization is game winning here. Most games, the defensive boots are not very important at the second slot, but in this particular game with lethality on 3 champions, armor boots becomes very, very important this particular game. So your Pyke is roaming to mid. And Malphite is still with me. He has ult, but unfortunately, MF is not really in a position where we can really ult her or get a kill on her. So here, the best thing we can do is kind of just force the tower. Malphite is building tank, as you can see from his itemization now, so building AP on our end was definitely correct. Even if Malphite was building AP, I think us building AP is still fine, because Malphite's AP mainly just comes from him ulting in and just using a one rotation of spells, and that's pretty much it, right? So here, while waiting for the wave to push in, I'm just getting some Krugs. Malphite has ult available. I'm ready to follow up with my ulti if required. We're really close to level 9 though, so it would be ideal if we could get level 9 before we go into the ultis, because that level 9 would be rank 2 ult for both of us, which will of course just give better benefits to the ult. Now here Yasuo is coming in for a play. We do have the Yasuo Malphite combo. Here, if Malphite can actually land the ult and give Yasuo the chance to ulti. Now Yasuo gets hooked in a little bit, pops the wind wall, knock up onto the Pyke. Pyke somehow hooks me as I'm trying to run in my E. But yeah, so here it gets a little bit messy. We're gonna force the tower first and foremost. Now we've got the tower, ult goes in onto the Pyke of all people. But here, MF is going to get run down anyway, and we get the double. So now at this point we're 4-2 with the evolved mana mune and the armor boots already. I think we're in a pretty decent spot despite the pretty embarrassing early game start. We are not actually in a pretty good spot. However, the issue is our team is not really in a very good spot. If you take a look at the situation, especially our solo laners, we have Renekton 2-0 while we have Darius 0-3, and there is like a 3k gold lead almost in the top lane, right? And in the mid lane, it's a very similar situation. We have a 2k gold lead of Ezreal over the Yasuo. So that's not very good. Jungle is pretty even, and thankfully now we've recouped our lead, and now we're 1k gold ahead of the MF, right? But Pyke is still in the lead against Malphite. So you can see that in the macro aspect, our team is definitely losing to the enemy team. You can see by about 4 to 5k gold, right? So that's not good whatsoever. Now here, I see Fiddlesticks because of the ward, so I'm not going to overextend here for the minions. It's not worth it. Although, to be very honest, I feel that I could 1v1 this Fiddlesticks. It's a 1-0-3 Fiddlesticks with one item. I have 2 full items, so I should be able to kill him here. I tried to snipe him there at the W, but it didn't quite work out. So now I know he's somewhere in one of these bushes, and he's probably wanting to go in on me, right, based on his behavior just now. So I'm thinking I just gotta bait him a little bit, so I walk close to the bush. He ults nothing, and then I'm gonna ult in, cleanse the CC, and then I'm just gonna run him down and kill him. Right, pretty easy, pretty simple. We get the assassination onto the Fiddlesticks, and as a result, we get access to his jungle as well, making sure to place the ward to see if anyone is coming. I'm not sure why the blue buff decided to aggro towards that direction. That was really weird. I thought there could have been someone there. But now I walk past the control ward, but I'm not gonna waste time clearing it because I gotta make my way over to mid as quickly as I can. Now here I'm thinking I can assassinate this Pyke, but Ezreal comes and body blocks for the Pyke, and unfortunately the Ezreal auto follows me through my flash, and I end up dying there. But I really thought I got the kill on Pyke there and got out, but that was not the case. Malphite now dies as well, and that is just not very good, right? Ezreal is the most fed member in the game, so giving him my shutdown is definitely not ideal, right? And he's closely followed behind by Darius, and this whole game we haven't really had to deal with them just yet, right? We've mainly been dealing with, of course, the bot lane. We've solo killed the Fiddlesticks there, but we haven't had to deal with the 2 most fed members of the enemy team. And now that we finally have, we go down. Now, of course, we did expend our ult previously already to deal with the Fiddlesticks, and here Yasuo takes the red buff, which is horrible because he is not doing as well as I am. I mean, I guess he's only 1k gold behind me, but I think I would have been way better with the red buff here. So thankfully, here Ezreal super overextends, and we get the shutdown on him instead of the Yasuo. So 500 big bucks into our pocket, knock up onto the MF. Now here, I think I misplayed it a little bit. I think if I ulted more aggressively into tower and gotten off the isolated Q into the auto, I think I could have one-shot the MF there, but I decided to ult a little bit more conservatively and not into the tower. Now here, once again, Pyke survives, but this time it's from his flash, which is pretty annoying. Pyke survives on 1 HP multiple times. I mean, he does die eventually, but not to me. And here we are just trying to siege mid a little bit. It isn't really working out. So I'm just going to reset. I get the Riftmaker, get the W evolve, and now we have all 3 evolutions. So I haven't really discussed this, but even on the AP build, I have the same evolve order, which is evolving Q, then E, then W. And the reason why I do that is obviously Manamune is an AD. Alright, first off, you always want to evolve Q first, right? I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. The main discussion is going to be whether you evolve W or E second. So my logic is when I get Nash's Tooth, it's going to be an AD item because of Manamune initially, right? So evolving E just for the invisibility is just going to be very good. Right, and then when you get Riftmaker, that's when Nash's Tooth converts into an AP item. Riftmaker itself is an AP item. Then you get the W evolve to then of course get the added benefits of the cooldown refund and the extra stack, which is going to be very helpful in the AP build. Of course, W scales with AP very well as well. So I think that that's pretty sound logic, and that's why I do Q into E into W for the maxing order of my spells. And yeah, so here, once again, we are pretty fair. We're at 11k goal. We're almost on par with Ezreal. So me and him are kind of the most fed people in the game right now. So my main job is to kill people and not get killed, right? I mean, that's pretty much the ADC's job, whatever the case is anyway, right? That's pretty much the job of basically almost anybody. I have to say in this game, we're doing a very good job of dodging the Pyke spell. So here I finally is going to ult in and murder the Pyke. I had enough of the Pyke getting away on 1 HP. Malphite though does die in trade. Yasuo is going in very, very deep. Fiddlesticks ulti comes over the top. I get silenced, and honestly, I could have cleansed there, but I don't think I'm gonna be getting out of this situation whether or not I cleanse. So I just choose to accept death, not waste my summoner spells. I think if I cleanse splash away, I still think they run me down and I die, because I'll be running then into the top side, and I don't think I would have survived there. So I think the best course of action is to not waste summoner spells and to just die. Sometimes you don't have to use your summoner spells. You don't always have to use all your summoner spells and then die. You could just, take the death and then save your summoner spells for the next fight. Here Master Yi gets exhausted, does kill Ezreal through the exhaust. Both him and Renekton decide to disengage from each other. And honestly, I am surprised the enemy team did not take Baron there. If I was them, I wouldn't be taking mid lane in him. I would be trying to ping for Baron. Because I think Baron here is a lot more valuable just to get the extra momentum. Instead of just getting the mid lane in him. So here me and Yasuo basically are just farming the jungle here. A fight breaks out in the mid lane. I'm trying to make it to the fight. Darius is 0 and 5 right now, so I'm not really relying on him to make any kind of huge contribution in this fight. But either which way, he is still a frontline champion, right? So I can always just stand behind him and get out some damage, right? Maybe he's not as tanky as he would have been if he's like fed or anything, but any frontline is better than no frontline is what I'm trying to say. So here Dragon spawns. This is going to be soul for the enemy team, Ocean Soul, so we're looking to just deny the soul a little bit. So the entire enemy team is distracted, myself and Master Yi do get the Infernal Dragon, which of course then prevents the soul from the enemy team. Now a huge fight is breaking out in the middle lane, however, the fight is basically already lost before we even get there, so there's no point of course going to a fight that's already gone. I'm just trying to farm up to Runan's Hurricane. I think Runan's Hurricane is a very, very big spike for Kai'Sa. The only reason why you don't go for it earlier is really items like Nash's Tooth and Riftmaker is very important for an AP build, and you can't really afford to waste time going for Runan's Hurricane before going for these two items. So the earliest time you can kind of get it is really at this juncture. Here the enemy team picks up Baron Nashor, which is no real big surprise. We're Hex gating to the fight to see if we can clean up. We all in. Get rid of the Fiddlesticks, flash over. I don't think we actually even needed to flash over. MF goes down. Ezreal here now getting caught in the pit a little bit. I'm trying to run him down. I get exhausted, but I'm not really gonna cleanse it because I think it's a waste. I don't think there's any way he gets out of it. If I don't get the kill, Yasuo is gonna get the kill, and in this case, I'm not very interested in denying Yasuo the kill and getting the kill from myself because there isn't really a huge shutdown on Ezreal or anything like that. So I'm not caring too much about that. So instead, the enemy team does get the Baron, but they do get aced, which is of course not an amazing thing for them, right? Like getting Baron and getting aced is kind of a little bit of like counterintuitive, right? Because the Baron is to help you push, and you're trying to push, but you're all dead, so you can't actually push, right? So Basically what this then allows the enemy team to do is to just free farm the minions like this without any threat. And finally I farm enough to get Runan's Hurricane, I believe. And we're going to pick up the Runans, and in the next team fight we are going to be huge, right? With Runans in a team fight you can just output so much more DPS, and it's just a game changer on Kai'Sa, right? However, now the first step is you gotta deal with all of these Baron minions, and they are really coming in hard and fast, right? So we gotta quickly attempt to get rid of them while remaining safe ourselves. We gotta put ourselves at risk while we're clearing minions, and the Elder Dragon is spawning in 30 seconds. So we want to ideally be pushing out these waves as Darius ends up dying. However, Fiddlesticks is on the completely wrong side of the map as Elder is spawning. That is the enemy jungler on the wrong side of the map there. Master Yi, our jungler, is backing and getting items, but now he's on the wrong side of the map too because he's stopping the Fiddlesticks. So now it just becomes a fight between the non-junglers, and here I try to cleanse preemptively to prevent myself from getting stunned by Renekton. It doesn't quite work out. I'm still able to auto-attack down the Pyke. Full stack Lethal Temple here, just auto-attacking anybody in sight. I think I'm on the triple already, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I am on the triple, and we get the kill onto Ezreal as well. Only Fiddlesticks is left alive, but only for a second. I do believe he's gonna die to Yasuo really soon. There he goes, and we get a clean ace on the enemy team. Now there is an argument here. We could have maybe just tried to push down mid and end the game, because the enemy death timers are like 30 seconds long or so, but I'm not sure if we would have gotten there in time. So we end up taking the Elder instead, which then should be able to mean that we can use the power of the Elder to push down lanes, or maybe even take a Baron, depending on if Baron is going to spawn in time before Elder expires, which I do believe is definitely the case. There is a 1 minute overlap between Baron and Elder. But yeah, Master Yi gets mid lane tower. I'm gonna get bot lane tower. Enemy team is kind of all reviving already, so we don't want to overextend while the enemy team is alive. We get the enemy team's blue buff, and now we're going to. I was gonna reset, but I was seen by the plant. So I don't want to reset in a dangerous position and throw the game, right? So here I'm going to reset. I pick up Crown now. You will see that in my build recommendation at the start, we did say death cap here, but honestly I realized at this point I don't need any more damage, right? I have more than enough damage. We saw from the last fight, I have more than enough damage to kill basically anybody on the team, right? So we don't need damage. What we need is survivability, so that's where Crown comes in, right? Crown, of course, is going to give you the extra shield. Fiddlesticks ults in onto me, pops my Crown. I'm going to pop the Stasis. I still have Elder though, so I'm completely fine. Like, I'm just gonna run him down, just get the kill on him. Of course, Fiddlesticks has better wave clear than Pyke, so choosing between the two of them who split up, going for the kill on Fiddlesticks is better. And then at this point, Pyke is trying his best to defend his base, but it's not going to happen. Malphite is tanking the tower, but he's real tanky, so it doesn't really matter. We're just gonna end the game right here. And I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. So, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.